Well, democracy in Myanmar. So basically, it's only been 3 years since they actually imposed democracy. So I don't think there is much to say here. But of course, after decades of military junta reigning in the country, I think that Myanmar is headed towards a very good direction with their new democratization, by releasing political prisoners and such as, and I do feel like they're trying to create a good impact on, and it does reflect very well in ASEAN itself, because Myanmar is a part of ASEAN and they have always been one of the most highlighted country in ASEAN, because they're not really actually a democratic country. So well, if you're asking me how do I feel about democracy in Myanmar, I feel good, but I don't really think that it goes really well as of now, because they're still searching for what kind of democracy they are going to implode, and I'm sorry, they are going to impose, and I think it's really working well as long as there is stability in their politics in Myanmar. So for years, actually, Rohingya was never acknowledged as a citizen, because based on the 1962 Citizen Act in Myanmar, people living in the Rakhine province, which is where the Rohingya people live, they are not given the citizenship status, because they are not considered citizens. And this year, Myanmar is conducting their first ever population census, and in the census, the Rohingya people are very scared, are very afraid of revealing their identity, because they are afraid that the government will use this census result to discriminate them, to incriminate them, to be even more even more extreme. And we do have to recognize that Rohingya people have always lived in a very hostile environment practically, and for more than 50 years they have not received any services from the government. They're not even actually Myanmar. They're practically stateless people, because Myanmar doesn't recognize them. When they seek refuge from the Bangladesh government, they're not acknowledged as well. So if you're asking me what do I think about discrimination in Myanmar, then the only thing I can come up with is that it's really gotten out of hand, and the international community has to do something, has to create certain working group to actually make sure that these Rohingya people are no longer violated by the Myanmar government. But of course, since the regime change in 2011, we have seen several changes in their treatment towards the Rohingya people, because for the past 3 years, the Rohingya people have been living in quiet, better environment, but not as they are supposed to be, but not the living arrangement they deserve, because they are human, and there are violation of the human rights there. There are many violations, and the international community has not been able to do anything by far, because the Myanmar government has been resistant. But I think with the new government, with the Tenzin regime, the international community has the chance to actually do something now, which is not the situation 3 years ago or 4 years ago, decades ago. So the discrimination has to end, but the Myanmar government will not succeed if the international community doesn't help them. To say that Myanmar can live in diversity, then we have to have certain data to support the statement. And what we don't have now is how well they can live in diversity. But if we have to project on the trend on how well they have been living in Myanmar these past decades, then I'd say that they do have the capability. It is possible, but seeing the current condition, I'm not really confident that it's going to happen, because even when the Myanmar government announced their plan to conduct a census a year ago, the Rohingya people were immediately sent into chaos, because they were afraid that this was another propaganda by the government to suppress them, to impose a structural violence on them. And we do by saying that by saying that Myanmar cannot live in diversity, then we are being very prejudiced. But if you ask me if Myanmar can live in diversity, it is actually Myanmar is not that diverse. Most of the population is of the same ethnic and they consist of mostly Buddhist people and actually Muslim, which is the tribe that Rohingya people belong to, are only represent about 4% of the population. And knowing this, I do have to say that. Myanmar has the capability, especially with the democratization in occurring as of now, and we have a very good reception from the international community. Myanmar has received heads of states from the United States, from the United Kingdom, and it shows that they are starting to engage with the international community, and it is a good sign. But to actually conduct a good living arrangement for everyone of different ethnic backgrounds and of diversity, then they need a better regulation. They need better act to regulate how these different tribes of ethnics are going to live in one environment. And it is not going to happen without the government engaging with the people, because the government has the power, because the government is the one who decides how these people are going to treat each other. The best possible way to show the Burmese people how to live in diversity. It is not how to teach them, but it is how to display to them how well we have managed in Indonesia. And the best possible way for me will be by establishing dialogue between heads of states, between regional leaders, and between young people. Because by doing so, we can establish an understanding between everyone not only in Myanmar or Indonesia for that matter, but in the entire Southeast Asia. But the entire Southeast Asia, because we are going to enter the ASEAN community, and it means that every one of us will affect every single act that we do here will affect everyone in the region. So to say that we have a better experience than Myanmar in living in diversity, then of course it is true. But we are still trying as well as a nation, and to show them how to cope with the adversity. I think the government has the utmost capacity, because they communicate, they can communicate with the head of state of Myanmar and create dialogues for the people to actually understand that there is no reason for us, even though we come from different tribes or different ethnic groups, to cross with each other. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that people of different ethnic groups only live well if they all feel safe. And so the most important aspect here that the government has to provide is safety, because people wouldn't. What is happening in Myanmar is that the majority feels like they are threatened. Feels like they're not safe with the Rohingya people living in their environment, and that is what is happening. And in Indonesia, we do have the cases too, because in Poso, for example, where the Christians and the Muslims do not feel safe with each other. So the government has the role to provide safety and to provide security for the people first, and then we can move to the next stage of creating an environment where people of any differences can live together without any conflicts or disputes. ASEAN community is a very exciting topic, of course, but will it affect the establishment? Sure, it will, because for the past 15 years since ASEAN regional leaders projected the idea of an ASEAN community, Myanmar has always been one of the most hotly debated topic for the international community. Because many other nations do not believe that ASEAN can make it to the ASEAN community without any problems, because Myanmar is not democratic. I mean, Myanmar has only been democratic since 2011. It means that they've only been democratic for 3 years, while other nations have been who they are, have been what they are for decades, such as Indonesia. We've been what we are for almost 70 years. So saying that, let's say, I think that it will affect the establishment of the ASEAN community in ways that we will receive critiques from the international community, especially those who claim to be the frontier supporters of human rights, especially the United States and the United Nations, of course, as the international organization. And as long as the Myanmar, as long as the government of Myanmar keep on, taking political prisoners, because basically everyone who disagrees with the government in Myanmar, they are prone to imprison them. That is not how democracy works. So if the government keeps on doing that, then what we are going to face is a very great backlash from we will receive a lot of backlash from the international community, because being a democratic country not only requires for you to conduct elections, not only requires for you to have House of Representatives, it requires more than that. It requires freedom of speech. It requires freedom in choosing what you want to do and what you do not want to do, and the government cannot interfere with it, like with a sort of rights. And the Myanmar is still learning to fulfill these requirements of democracy. So even though they have conducted election several months ago, it doesn't mean that Myanmar has already become a good democratic country. There's years or probably decades of processes to actually make sure that Myanmar is a democratic country that is ready to join the establishment of ASEAN community. As for other ASEAN members, I feel like the other members should have more significant roles in engaging with democracy in Myanmar. But the problem is that we have the non-intervention principle in ASEAN, which prohibits other nations from interfering with other nations' internal affairs, and it is really problematic, because the other nations cannot pretend like it doesn't affect them. But the problem is, if they start to be involved, then they are violating the very first principles that the ASEAN member states agreed when they were established in the first place.